Hi there, and welcome to this look at the 14-day weather prospects. Now, after a few colder days during the first week of November, it has turned milder again. And here in Berkhamsted, I haven't yet recorded my first air frost of the season. Will that change during the forecast period? Okay, so I'm going to start by taking a look at the North Atlantic pressure sequence for the next week or so. Here we are starting today on Tuesday the 10th of November, and what we can see here is the UK is under a very mild southwesterly flow, and we've got an area of low pressure out in the Atlantic which is looking quite ominous. So let's see what happens if I play the sequence. So I'm going to pause it here, and this is at 3 GMT on Thursday the 12th of November. And what we can see by then is we've got an area of wet and windy weather pushing eastwards across all parts of the UK. There could well be gales especially in western and perhaps southern locations during Thursday morning, and some heavy bursts of rain. So at this stage it's very much an Atlantic dominated picture. If I continue the sequence, let's see how things develop. So I'm going to pause this. This is now at 6 GMT on Friday the 13th of November. What we can see there is we're still very much under the influence of the Atlantic. We've got another band of cloud and rain which is pushing across the United Kingdom at this stage. It looks like it will clear away as we go through Friday, so I'm just going to start the sequence once again. And I'll pause it there, which is at midnight on Saturday the 14th of November. And again, what we can see is very much a west or southwesterly flow, a vigorous flow across all parts of the country. We've got further outbreaks of rain making their way eastwards. By this stage, the timing becomes more uncertain, but the general picture remains an unsettled one, with areas of low pressure in the Atlantic really driving things right across the whole of the UK. Perhaps still a little bit drier at times in the southeast, but I think through this period all regions can expect some significant rainfall. Now I'll continue it here into the early part of next week just to see what could happen. And let me pause it here at 9 GMT on Tuesday the 17th of November. By then we start to see an area of high pressure centred over continental Europe beginning to assert more influence once again, and outbreaks of rain are becoming increasingly focused on the north and northwest of UK, with drier conditions in southern, central and eastern districts. And also, with the winds coming from the southwest, it could well be turning very mild again as we head through next week. So let me take you across to the 16-day GEFS plots to put a little more flesh on the details. This one is for London, and I've annotated it to make it easier to read, hopefully. On the top half of the plot we see upper air temperatures. Now the thing to really notice here is that for much of a 16-day period, so going out until about the 25th of November, they are forecast to be above a 30-year average. If you remember, the 30-year average is shown by this black line which goes right across the horizontal axis, and if most of the runs are above the black line, then the likelihood is for upper air temperatures to be milder than the 30-year average. Conversely, when they drop below, which on this plot they really don't for much of the time at all, perhaps just here a little bit around the 16th or 17th of November, when they do, that indicates colder than average conditions at the 850 HPA level, so at about 1500 meters above sea level. So yeah, so it is generally a mild picture with these slightly cooler incursions, which I've highlighted. It indicates that we may be pulling in some cooler or colder air from the west or northwest briefly, but for much of a period, it looks like we're going to be under a southwesterly flow, at least in this part of the UK. In terms of rainfall, in the short term, you can see there's quite a few spikes appearing on the bottom part of the plot. Those spikes are indicating rain forecasts from the model runs within the ensemble. So essentially within the next week, there will be some rain at times in London, as I was discussing. Next week, high pressure may well begin to have more influence, and we can see from around about the 15th, 16th of November, there are fewer spikes appearing on this part of the plot, and that suggests at least the possibility of drier than average conditions. It's not nailed on yet. In fact, it may well be the case that high pressure doesn't have as much influence as the computer models are showing at the moment. That's certainly what's been the case in the last few days and in the next few days. If you can remember, when I last issued one of these forecasts, it looked as though high pressure was going to keep things dry in the south and east for much of a period, and that really hasn't happened. So again, this could be a little bit of an optimistic tilt from the computer models. We'll just have to see how it plays out in the next week or so. But certainly the signal right now is for drier conditions to return to southern and eastern parts of the UK at least as we head through the middle part of November. Now, if I jump up to the Glasgow plot to give us an idea of what's happening in the northwest of the UK, we can see that on the upper half here, temperatures are dipping below the 30-year mean more frequently than they are on the London plot. So it's indicating that in the northwest it isn't likely to be as mild, and more frequent incursions of colder air from the north or from the northwest or the west can be expected during the next week or so. In the longer term, it looks like being milder than average for much of a period. So from around about the 17th through to the 25th, the current signal there is for upper air temperatures to be above the 30-year mean, but closer than in southern England for much of a period. In terms of rain, it's a wetter picture than the London plot showed us. In fact, we've got an ongoing risk of rain between now and really the 20th, the 21st of November, which is just there. Thereafter, there are some tentative indications of it perhaps turning drier during the last third of November, but again, at this stage, I would not hold a great deal of confidence in that particular outcome, but it is something to keep an eye on. Now, I have mentioned that it will be mild or very mild at times, and I just thought it was worth flagging up this chart from the European ECMWF model. And this is showing 850 HPA temperatures for Tuesday, the 17th of November. And what we can see is values of about 11, 12 Celsius in much of southern and southwestern England and parts of Wales there as well, Northern Ireland. Now, those really are very high temperatures for this time of the year. And although upper level mildness doesn't always translate down to very mild conditions at the ground level for a number of reasons, which I'll not explain here. However, in this instance, it looks like it probably will do. So I think we could be looking at some temperatures climbing back into the teens Celsius during the early part of next week, perhaps even reaching 15, 16, 17 Celsius during Tuesday, on Tuesday the 17th of November. So the mildness is definitely something to keep an eye on. Now, I started off by saying that I've still not recorded an air frost in Berkhamsted this season. Is that likely to change, was my question. Well, what I can do here is show you a percentage split of all the model runs in the GEFS model. So this is showing the split for the temperature forecasts, and initially we can see that most of the runs, between 90% and 100%, are predicting temperatures to be in the yellow and green bands, so that's between +1 Celsius and +20 Celsius. It's quite a big split, quite a big range there, but essentially nothing's fallen below zero. Now, if I keep scrolling through, we can see not a great deal changes. So the dates along the top here, Saturday the 14th of November going through to Monday the 16th, and still all of the runs basically are in the green and yellow bands, which indicates that it's going to be too mild for air frost. Let me keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Still nothing there until we reach the 25th of November. All the way out to the 25th we've got to go. And finally, one or two of the 30 GFS runs are forecasting temperatures to dip below freezing in the London area. So that gives us a 3% chance on Wednesday the 25th at this time at midnight, and a 3% chance 6 hours later. A very low chance for an air frost, but according to the GEFS, it's a first possibility of an air frost in the next 16 days, albeit an extremely low one. So to answer my question, am I likely to see an air frost in Berkhamsted in the near future? The computer models are saying very probably not. So the wait continues. So finally, let me move on to the summary. In the short term, it's going to be wet and windy. We've got these bands of rain pushing in from west and moving across all parts of the country. Next week, high pressure may have more influence as it builds over the near continent, so that would possibly lead to dry conditions in the south and east of UK, with rain becoming more focused on the northwest. And temperatures look like staying above average for much of a period, particularly in the south, with colder incursions more likely in the northwest of UK. So that pretty much is the summary, and thank you for watching this. If you found the video useful, please do remember to hit the subscribe button below so you'll receive notifications when I publish updates in the future. Thanks now, bye.